think next year has the potential to be one of the biggest years of the last, at least of the 2020s, with GTA and the Switch 2. Again, I'm so sick of talking about the Switch 2, but like we know we're getting an announcement next year. So like,
I'm just looking at a list of games for next year, and I think next year's gonna rip. Like, I'm just gonna list them off, and let's just get progressively
and that's just
excited.
Doom you're talking about.
Adventure Calls! Indiana Jones and the Great Circle releases on December 9th on Xbox Series X and S, Game Pass, and PC. Pre-order Indiana Jones and the Great Circle now. Rated M for mature themes and action violence.
Hello and welcome to the Press Start podcast, Press Start Australia's weekly video game discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ewan, joined today by my fellow gamers and co-hosts Brody.
Hello.
James.
Hello.
And Shannon.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the year in gaming and PlayStation's 30th anniversary, which is officially today as of time of recording, building up to it for a while. But first, we've sometimes started the show by sharing our thoughts on some tasty treats that we've been vibing recently. And James, I hear you have tried both the McFlurry Cherry Ripe and Oreo Frozen Coke and have some thoughts you want to share. Is that correct?
I don't. No, it was. Sorry, I missed this was actually in the notes, but yeah.
You texted it to me and you said I got to talk about
it was
this.
I mean, okay. Yeah, really
Throw it
good.
into the
I've
bus
been
now.
having the Oreo frozen Coke no sugar is my favorite of the new treats. I've had one almost every day. They're
Oh my
guilt-free
God.
too. So they're
There's
no
zero sugar.
Yeah. Although, unless you steal food, you shouldn't be guilty. But anyway, I think it's really good. The cherry ripe was alright too. Yeah.
What's the deal with McFlurries? Do they have like?
What do you mean?
like? Do they have kind
Jerry
of a
Seinfeld.
fixed amount of like these flavors are always available, and then there's one or two that's on rotation? Is that how it works?
There's like 3 staples, right?
Okay.
And
Oreo,
then they,
M&M's,
Oreo,
and Flake,
M&M.
isn't it?
I think, yeah. And then they obviously have promotional ones. So at the moment they've got pineapple or cherry ripe. And then around Easter they have like cream egg. Yeah,
Ooh,
the pineapple
okay.
one's really good. But yeah, the new one is cherry ripe, which is like I got to taste it today after much deliberation. I really liked it. I don't think Shannon did. But yeah,
It's no apple pie and caramel one.
And I don't know.
because wait,
That was
I'll
good.
always have a McFlurry, but I think we've spoken about it before. Like Storms and the Biscoff Storm in particular is just better from Hungry Jack's. It's the one thing I really like from Hungry Jack's,
All right.
and I'll stand by that.
so does one of the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think the cherry ripe flavor deserves to be one of the staple ones now?
No, not at all.
No.
I don't think it's that. I don't think. Yeah, I think
Can
pineapple
I-
maybe.
I just want to shout out, and can't even remember what it's called, but the new cheesy Zinger burger.
The cheesy
The dogs
Zinger.
are really liking that. I've had a few times, and I'm not a big KFC burger person, but it's like
Now-
a mix between cheeseburger and chicken. It's so good.
I think that's the one I forgot about. That is actually the best.
Is the cheesy
Do you
nature
think-
of it simply that it has cheese?
Cheese sauce.
Oh,
penis.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of like the
So-
cheesy
And-
cheeseburger sauce in
and there's like a
Hungry
relish.
Jack's?
right?
Yeah. It is.
Okay.
And it's got tangy tomato sauce as well.
You've got my
So it's
attention.
Literally tastes like a Macca's cheeseburger, I think.
It's quite
no,
possible.
I
I'm
think
going
that's-
to
I
forego
think
my
that's
packed
selling it
lunch
short.
tomorrow and get one of those.
It's very good. Like I don't know if I'd say it's like a cheeseburger, but just, it's very good.
Well, Brody can be the
Trying to eat
tiebreaker.
healthier. This is
I will.
not good.
I'll report back tomorrow.
If you don't get the chips, it's all right. Kind of.
Not a fan of KFC chips.
No, I'm just saying if you want to get a healthier meal,
Then wash it
maybe.
down with a 0-calorie Oreo McFlurry, and you're
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Yeah, literally. It's actually a health food. Yeah.
I had KFC on a night out the other night, and it hit so hard. It was like
Oh,
so good.
it's so
There's nothing
good,
yeah.
better than like some fresh KFC made at midnight, like after a few drinks.
Potato and
So good.
gravy,
Few wicked
popcorn
wings.
chicken. Get it up me.
Okay, we've sufficiently dragged this segment out. I'm impressed. I wondered how far we would go. This is wonderful. Let's get into the meat and bones of the show,
Oh,
though.
chicken.
Oh, Mean Bones. They could have been. Yeah, they could have been a segue there.
One
I thought
Piece.
about that for a moment longer. It's drawing near the end of 2024, and I'm sure we'll no doubt have a bunch of things to kind of discuss looking back at the year. No doubt we'll do our Game of the Year debate at some point too, which is always a good fun episode. I love when things get heated in that ep. But before we do all that, I'm eager to just at this point in time, obviously early December now, look back at the year that was 2024 and sort of review it as a year in gaming, I suppose. So thinking in terms of the quality of the releases we got, what sort of new hardware updates there was. I don't know off the top of my head if there was any. Maybe the Portal came out this year, actually. Maybe that's one. But yeah, just like assessing it in terms of how good a year it was to be a gamer. Brody, I'm curious of your thoughts first. What do you think? How do you think 2024 stacks up in terms of a quality year in gaming?
It's been a bit different. It's been a bit different sort of year, I think. I feel like all year we've sort of discussed about how it hasn't really hit like maybe the last couple of years, because it feels like we've missed that, I guess, maybe really big tentpole release. Like you haven't had an Elden Ring or a Zelda or a God of War or something like that. Granted, we had Astro Bot and a Elden Ring DLC, but I think, though, generally the spread of games and I guess the variety and what those games have been has been really quite good. And as I've said all along, like good spread of indies as well, which have sort of come onto the scene. I was just looking at the Wikipedia for 2024 in games, and 11 games this year have got 90 or above on Metacritic, and I would say looking at it, 3 or 4 of those are indie, which is obviously a very good thing. Astro Bot, Metaphor, and Elden Ring battling it up the top there on 94, so I think it's been a pretty solid year. Like, I'm not going to turn around and say it's like the worst year since 2021 or something like that, when games like Deathloop and It Takes Two were up for a Game of the Year, which obviously felt like a bit of a down year, I think, in my opinion. I don't think it's quite as bad as that, perhaps, but yeah, I think it's obviously been good as far as game releases go, bad in other ways, obviously.
Does that resonate with you as well, James? Do you feel much the same?
Yeah. I do. I think, sure, there's been no, say, tentpole first party releases or whatever. Well, there has, but there's been not massive ones. But I think that doesn't make any of the incredible indie games that came out any less of a year, if that makes sense. Because I remember obviously I was maintaining my list for a while that I played too many games and lost the motivation to do it. But for a long time, it was a lot of games made by indie developers in my top 10 this year. So it was a weird year because I think there was a lot of really good shit in the first 3 months and a lot of really good shit towards the end, like whenever Metaphor and Dragon Age and stuff came out. But then in the middle there was just a big lull, and now I feel especially there's a big lull as well. All those big October games. All those big October games just didn't materialize like they were going to.
Which could have been quite different, right? But there was a couple of games kind of delayed into early next year that might have changed things, like Avowed being, I guess, one that's kind of front of mind. I think I'm in agreement with you both. There's probably games in my top 10 that I probably wouldn't have really given the time of day or had the same urgency to play if it were, say, a year in which we had all these heavy-hitting PlayStation first-party games, or I don't know. But I guess I typically kind of spend a lot of time with those and gravitate towards those, and they've appeared in my top 10 previously. Whereas this was the year of Metroidvanias for me. I really loved Prince of Persia. I loved Animal Well, Echoes of Wisdom. I spent way more time with that as a Zelda game than I ever thought I kind of was going to as well. I actually spent a lot of time on my Switch this year, which I haven't really done over the past kind of 2023, 2022 perhaps. So yeah, I kind of appreciate that it kind of gave me time to poke around some different genres of games and spend a bit more time with those. And it's maybe surprised me as well that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't kind of sit as high in terms of my own personal list of the games of the year. I kind of thought that was going to be pretty high up the list based on how much I enjoyed Remake, the first part of it. So that was maybe the only kind of real surprise, I think, in terms of games. Or actually, maybe Concord was a bit surprising as well. But yeah, I don't know. Shannon, what do you think? Did you play some stuff this year that surprised you?
It's been a weird year that feels like it's gone by in an instant. But then I look back to January and some of the games that came out, and that feels like years ago.
Yeah.
I've played some stuff that I've liked this year. The Last of Us Part 2's No Return mode, I really enjoyed that for like the 10 or 15 hours I spent with it.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I actually went back to it with Pro recently, and that was a lot of fun. We got a new Top Spin game this year, so for me that feels like an incredible year that I never thought we would see. Helldivers, for the few weeks I spent with that was really good. But yeah, scrolling through the list, like there's a lot of good games. There's just not, like if you're a Final Fantasy fan, that was a big one. I'm not. And I don't think even if you are, that hit for a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of indie games and games that I probably wouldn't have played otherwise, like Another Crab's Treasure. I really enjoyed playing that on one of the handhelds I was reviewing. Yeah, Paper Mario was great, but again, a lot of remakes from Nintendo and kind of again, good games. I don't think we want to shit on anything here, but yeah, just not big Zeldas or Mario or Uncharted or Halo or those really massive 5 titles that you normally look to every or every second or third year to pull through. But yeah, I think it was a solid year and not many dull moments. I feel like this holiday period has felt weird, if anything, because no Assassin's Creed. Like November felt like it had nothing. Really, which is bizarre.
Yeah, I guess Assassin's Creed's the other one as well. Yeah, and I guess we got Indiana Jones obviously coming out later this week as well. Is that kind of the last big release of the year, or am I forgetting something?
Except for obviously
stuff.
Power Rangers Reader's Rewind. That's
how could I forget?
And the Alien VR game as well.
Surefire
that's coming
10.
out.
The Alien VR game's good chat too, actually.
Yeah, I'd say indie is the last big, I guess, first party tentpole for any of the big three. Yeah.
How would you rate Xbox's year, Brody?
It's hard to sort of, as Shannon was saying in the pre-show, it's sort of hard to, I guess, quantify it at this stage ahead of embargo for such a big title like Indiana Jones. So parking that slightly, I think it's been an okay year. Like they've had a lot of they've delivered a lot of games. Like you've had obviously Hellblade earlier in the year. They've just put out things like obviously Call of Duty that falls under their banner now. Obviously Diablo expansion, Flight Sim just came out. Although I read the review, it seems like that could use a little bit of work. But look, that's most AAA releases these days. So look, I think it's been okay. They're starting to, I think, find that cadence. And as we sort of near next year, which I think next year looks absolutely packed in terms of things that are coming out. I think they'll sort of hit that stride, and we'll get obviously Avowed earlier in the year, Fable next year, hopefully South of Midnight. So I think 2025 could be the year that they really start to see those dominoes fall. But
heard that before.
Yeah. But look, I for me personally, I know it didn't hit with everyone, but I liked Hellblade quite a bit this year. That was a game that spoke to me. I can't speak to what I'm currently reviewing, but look, all the other things I've played out of the Xbox banner this year, Call of Duty included, obviously, I've had a bit of fun with. Obviously, we'd be remiss to not mention the layoffs that they had. Like, that's obviously, and with everywhere else, like, that's probably the one big dark point of the year that is worth talking about, like, just how impacted so many studios have been. So that's obviously tough, but that is part of consolidation and big business, unfortunately. Especially when you acquire a $70 billion company, it's going to have some overlap. So, look, I think it's been a solid-ish year. You got to remember, there's obviously things like while it obviously hasn't materialized yet and the games are coming down the track, I think the Summer Game Fest showing they had this year, like their game showcase, it was like one of the best ones that they've ever done. And it sort of only solidified for me my confidence, I guess, in their direction going forward. Their pivot to sort of semi-quasi third party, depending on what the title is, obviously a bit strange at first, but I think probably sound business practice, which again only solidifies their I guess, willingness to press forward in this industry and not just close up shop because hardware sales aren't there, or Game Pass is not latching on like it should. So I mean, they're bobbing and weaving. I think they're trying to stay alive, but I think it's been an okay year.
I think like as a Game Pass subscriber, like that just feels like it continues to go strength to strength and offer more value. Like not only in kind of the new games that got added to it this year, those third-party relationships, I think are like super key. I mean, like having Stalker kind of added in there recently has been great. But also just like the kind of library they're building out and the updates that those are getting, like Starfield, I feel like kind of came back into the zeitgeist somewhat with the updates that received too. And we've heard kind of recently about the impact that Call of Duty's had kind of coming into the program as well. So yeah, I still am a big fan of Game Pass in terms of the value that it offers. I'm a little bit concerned about what it is going to mean for the bottom line of Xbox sort of as a publisher. I still don't feel like they're going to quite sort of have the same money coming in as it would be if everyone bought these games outright. But yeah, I think they've really stuck to the strategy quite well. We're seeing it come to more and more devices. Like the Fire Stick sort of partnership kind of came out this year, right? Things like that, I think, is really this kind of coming to fruition, this strategy that we've seen them talk about for a long time now. What about yourself, James?
I was going to say, just to your point about how Game Pass might cannibalize their own sales, I think that speaks to why they do bring them to other platforms once maybe they see the spike dry up in Game Pass subscribers, and then obviously they can get a second hit of marketing, and obviously it'll do well for indie when that comes to PlayStation mid next year. I think Hi-Fi Rush did okay when it hit other platforms this year, so not that that's Xbox anymore. Obviously they gave that studio away, but yeah. Anyway.
But there was also Pal World earlier this year, which I was going to mention earlier. Like, I don't feel like there were that many big kind of cultural moments in gaming this year. Like, thinking about, Tears of the Kingdom last year, when that came out, it was all over TikTok. People were sharing videos or whatever, like, contraptions they were making in the game. I don't feel like we had a lot of those this year. Maybe Helldivers 2 was another one. Pal World, I guess, felt like another. But maybe everyone's algorithms are a bit different and they saw a different comment. But I saw those two games like talked about an awful lot and had massive kind of spikes in player numbers. And I think Game Pass, that was like another moment in which it really sort of benefited of Power World being included within there and being a console exclusive at the time too. James, I'm eager for your opinion though on Xbox's year. How would you rate it?
It's fine. Like, it's not like mind blowing. I think, like, as somebody who pays for Game Pass Ultimate, like, I feel like I've got my money's worth there and that's as somebody who plays a lot of different games. So yeah, like in that regard, I think like there is no reason for me to cancel based on that. Yeah. In terms of like their first party output, obviously I can't speak about Indiana Jones because I haven't played it, but Stalker was okay. Flight Sim Stalker seemed to be true to what it was. It didn't like break any new ground.
Stalker's not first party either.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, like if their lineup this year, I guess. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like I think Hellblade was very good. Like, I enjoyed it. I did think it was a step back from the first game, but it was still pretty good. Like, I didn't think about that until I thought about it afterwards, if that makes sense. Like, I enjoyed the experience for what it was. And then obviously Flight Sim, it seems to be a bit of a mess, but could get better in the future. But yeah, like I think as long as they keep making those solid deals with, say, like, Capcom and all the other indies and stuff, that keeps the stuff coming to Game Pass, like I think they could have a good year. If they have some solid, like, Fable next year, it could really help them too. I think the future looks good. I know we say that every year.
I forgot about Doom as well. That's next year. Like, that's going to be...
Next year's stacked. I think South of Midnight looks really good too. Like, I know some people have been shitting on it, but I think it looks very solid. Looks like a real step up from their last two games, Compulsion, and obviously if Fable makes it, I think that will be pretty. I don't think Playground's made a bad game, so I'm pretty keen to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what Xbox got in store, not having played any indie. I'm still excited for that. Like, I really love machine games, and have a lot of faith that that's going to be an enjoyable game and speak to my interests. We'll have to wait and see what Brody can say about it, but I remain excited for that.
Though, I feel like first party this year has been pretty average across the board. Like, I can't think of any like phenomenally amazing games. Like, even Nintendo, who has a very good cadence of releases, especially compared to Sony and Xbox. Even their games have not been like as consistent in terms of quality as they usually are. So I think third parties and indies have done a really good job this year. And I hope that... I feel like the other thing as well is we're never going to... Like, last year was so good, right? Like, I feel like every game that came out... There was like a 10 a month. Like a 10 game a month. Like, almost. It was a really, really good year for games.
Yeah.
So I just think we're never going to kind of...
I think we're in a difficult spot in terms of the generation cycle too. Like, the Switch is obviously coming to an end, which, I guess we've seen historically really good releases towards the end of a console generation's life cycle. Like, thinking of, The Last of Us coming out at the end of the PS3 for an example. Like, it's kind of when the studios have really kind of like honed in on the platform and can optimize for it really well, that kind of thing. I do sort of just feel like the Switch, maybe pivoting to Nintendo at this point, is just like overstaying its welcome like a little bit. Like, I feel like the Switch 2 this year would have been really good, particularly as like all of these new handheld options kind of come to market. Had they sort of come out this year, I reckon that would have been really good. That being said, like I think the Switch kind of really benefited from me on those kind of like little games that I wanted to play, like Prince of Persia. I thought suited it so well. That's where I played through the game. And Echoes of Wisdom, I think, as well. Like, although not this massive kind of tentpole release for Nintendo, I think was still a really fantastic game, and I loved what they did with that. But yeah, I do sort of feel like it was a bit of a flat year for Nintendo, and maybe the others are a bit of a victim sort of being in the middle of their kind of cycle as well. Like, you kind of have that initial flurry and then like a final sort of flurry, but it's maybe a bit of a quieter patch in the middle of the generation at the moment for the others.
I think Paper Mario is like really good, but that's obviously a remake too. But I think Jamboree is also quite good. I don't know if that's a game that like immediately appeals to you guys.
I guess we had RPG this year as well too, didn't we? Maybe there's more than
we had like 77 RPGs this year. Like, it's been a big.
Sorry, I meant Mario RPG.
Oh yeah, we had Brothership as well, but that I didn't like that as much.
Yeah,
but yeah, like, I think Nintendo, like, they're interesting, right? In that they will have a game finished and just sit on it because they want to have their schedule correct. They did it with Odyssey back on the Switch, and I can see them doing it with Switch too. Like, I think keeping their really big flagship games to kind of really make a splash with the new console.
Yeah.
Whereas like Sony and Xbox, their games just take longer to make, so that's why there's no games. So I don't think they had a bad year. I think you and like when you say overstaying its welcome, I don't necessarily agree from a games perspective. I think from a technical perspective, yes. Like, I think there's definitely games where they feel like the presentation is suffering because of the aging hardware. But I think games wise, like Jamboree and Paper Mario, even Echoes of Wisdom have all like really like those three games are very solid output from Nintendo, and that's not including their mid-tier like Peach and
I think
for me Brothership.
It feels though like they've sort of ran through their Wii U releases, and like it's time for something new, and you can kind of tell that it's more like I don't think it was a bad year or that it's overstayed its welcome, but you can kind of they're at the point now where they're like filling time for the new console, I think.
Yeah, I think
with still planned releases and a plan, but yeah, I think you can tell that there's something bigger coming.
I think there's like certain releases they want to kind of time with the release of the Switch 2, right? Like Metroid Prime 4. And they want all that to kind of line up, I think, within the same kind of 12 months. And so, yeah, I just feel like we're in a little bit of a holding pattern for that at the moment, which isn't, sort of knocking any of these games, but like if we'd had the Switch 2 this year, I think I'd have been more excited about Nintendo. Even like the Switch 2 last year, like coinciding with Tears of the Kingdom and kind of carrying forward there.
The
and
last 5 years really would have been.
yeah, not contending with some of the performance hiccups and stuff, like, would have been great. But yeah, we're splitting hairs. Like, I think otherwise it's been kind of a pretty okay year for Nintendo. There's some pretty good additions to their online service, right? Like the what is it, NES Online, all of the different versions they've got. I know I've not played as much Donkey Kong as I told you I would, James, but good to see them continuing to support that. Shannon, how would you rate PlayStation's year?
I think that they would be happy with sort of what they did this year in terms of what they align with. Again, not massive first-party games, but I think Concord, which we can speak at in a bit, the rest, like, they would be fairly happy with in terms of what they chose. Like Silent Hill 2, Stellar Blade, Rise of the Ronin, Rebirth, I guess, to a smaller extent, but I don't think it was offensive in what it was. Helldivers and Astrobot. I think they had a decent year in terms of what they set out to do. I don't think like they had planned at any point to release like a major first-party game in holiday. They had Pro. Obviously, COD and FC carry a lot of their holiday lineup. I think if Concord didn't happen, we'd be sitting here saying it was a fairly middling year for PlayStation, like nothing spectacular, but a fine year in terms of sort of the games that they purchased for console exclusivity and whatnot. But obviously Concord, I don't know, we don't need to dunk on it at length, but like a lot of money wasted there and just a lot of the goodwill that they had built over the last 6 to 8 years sort of flushed down the toilet, and like some real doubts over a bunch of other games. And The Last of Us getting cancelled, like, yeah, it felt like I think they're going to be positive for the future, but in the context of now, it felt a little bit worrying.
Yeah, I think I sent you like a couple of those memes of people like it was like a sign graph and people like kind of high on PlayStation 1 news update and then suddenly totally against them the next. And I know like things like Horizon's kind of remaster and stuff kind of ruffled a few feathers as well. Can't say it really fazed me all that much. But yeah, I mean Concord, like I think Concord just kind of felt like an avoidable misstep, and that is kind of what was frustrating. But I guess you don't need to look back far in PlayStation's lineage to kind of see a number of missteps, and they sort of happen every so often. You know, we might have actually been in a bit of an unusual hot streak for them. I'm still pleased a PlayStation exists in which they kind of take a bit of a gamble and try something new and invest in new IP, and I hope that what happened with Concord doesn't de-incentivize them to continue doing that. But yeah, I mean, it started so strong with like Final Fantasy, Helldivers 2, Rise of the Ronin to a lesser extent, but I think that was like reasonably well received. And then obviously like the 30th anniversary stuff at the moment, like that was really popular, and I think people are really pleased with how they've handled that. Maybe availability of stock is another issue, but it's kind of what they've done in the past, I guess, and not out of character. So yeah, I think all in all, like a pretty decent year for PlayStation, all without like kind of a big hitter from one of their kind of A-tier studios.
Again,
2025,
I'm sure,
I feel a lot more optimistic for.
Yeah, I'm sure they're sort of planning everything around GTA and like what that looks like over the next 12 to 24 months.
And we've got Ghosts as well. I'm really interested to see. Yeah, Death Stranding. Yeah, there's a few on the horizon.
I think they did it like Nintendo. They did enough to kind of keep everything ticking along without doing anything crazy, but also not anything too offensive. Concord aside, 7.5 out of 10 forever.
Look, I don't want to get back into that again, but it was like a good game that was probably just not handled right. Anyhow, Brody, James, do either of you have an opinion on PlayStation's year?
I tend to agree. Like, I think it was fine. Obviously, as Shannon alluded to, like the Concord situation probably dented their, I guess, live service plans to a degree. After Helldivers probably had them up here on it. So obviously remains to see where that goes. I'm similarly upset by the. Granted, we probably weren't meant to know, but the cancellation of The Last of Us 1 and the news of the cancellation of the Spider-Man one that they were working on. Like, we're probably more so not meant to know about that. But so that's a little disappointing, especially when I guess they do something like Concord, like instead of backing in IP that they know will be successful. But to your point, I guess it's good to take a punt on new IP. And like you say, Sony could easily just play it safe and put out a new Uncharted, alternate Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War every few years in Horizon and just do nothing novel again. But they're not doing that, so I think they deserve some credit for that. And obviously, I think Astrobot definitely deserves its flowers. Like that is a very fine platforming game that will, I'm sure, do very well at the end of year conversations. So, and to Shannon's point, I think their partnerships that they've chosen have been smart. Like, obviously, Final Fantasy has its audience. We've established that's not me, but I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you guys. Silent Hill obviously did really well. And like Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade aren't my thing necessarily, but I know they have their audience as well. So I think they've done well. Similarly to Xbox, I think Xbox has good third-party partnerships as well. But I think if you were to put the two lineups against each other next year, I think probably PlayStation have picked the better games in that sense, or managed to secure the better games.
On Astrobot, I do, again, it's hard to know, and I'm sure everyone's disappointed with their sales at the moment, but I do think it came in quite low in terms of like the support around that game and like how much they were amping it up and how good it was. I think that it didn't match with their normal, but then Helldiver's probably made up for that 10 times.
I think it's just a game where the audience the console has cultivated doesn't match with the game as much. Like everyone bought a PS5 for, I'm trying to think, like, I'm not going to say Last of Us, but, games like Spider-Man 2 and stuff, and I just don't think they're the types of people that would buy Astrobot.
I think the kind of, like, youngest a PlayStation gamer probably is, right, is kind of in, like, their early sort of teens, and it might be their preferred platform for, like, Fortnite and Call of Duty and FIFA and, that kind of style of game. That...
All we can hope is that internally, a couple of million sales is good. Like,
I mean, and it wouldn't have been the most costly game to make. So
they would have had a lot of foundation.
Yeah, I think they've just really established like Astrobot as an IP. I kind of hope we see more of it. And I sort of feel like it's a kind of game that might have a better tale to it than we sort of might think as well. And I'm curious to see how sort of sales numbers like kind of net out 12 months from now. But I think the other thing call out for PlayStation is the PS5 Pro coming out too. I think that did kind of better than I expected it to. I was just amazed how much it seemed to be selling and how much interest there was. And the Portal. Did the Portal actually come out this year? I was just double checking that.
It was this year, and it was mostly this year, I think.
Okay.
By the time stock was available.
I was going to say all the same. I think they've like continuing to support that in the way that they have is quite impressive. Like I didn't expect it to get a 30th anniversary version. It's obviously got the game streaming internationally, not here recently. But I think that sold better than they expected to. And I don't know if we would be hearing all of these rumors about another PlayStation Portable if the Portal wasn't selling as well as it is. So pleased with that. James, how do you think next year is going to shake out? Is 2025 going to be a step up on this year?
Sure.
Excellent. Take it home. Take it to the bank. It's an improvement.
There's nothing that excites me at the moment. I'd have to actually formally look. Which I might do as I'm speaking.
Why don't I quickly? I think
next year's pretty stacked.
I think next year has the potential to be one of the biggest years of the last, at least of the 2020s, with GTA and the Switch 2. Again, I'm so sick of talking about the Switch 2, but like we know we're getting an announcement next year. So like, presumably it's going to at least start that conversation formally, but that and GTA, which again might get delayed. If they both happen, I just think with the audience that Nintendo has built back up with the Switch and obviously GTA, and what that is, like it's, again, I'm sure James and Brody will speak to other things, but those two things alone, like, have me extremely excited, both with my press start cap on and my gamer cap on as well,
Like,
because I just think they're going to reach masses.
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at a list of games for next year, and I think next year's gonna fucking rip. Like, I'm just gonna list them off, and let's just get progressively
and that's just Doom
excited.
you're talking about.
Like,
Yeah,
Assassin-
rip, tear, and shred.
regardless of where you come down on Assassin's Creed, Shadows looks cool. You got Avowed, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, Like a
Monster
Dragon,
Hunter.
the Pirate Yakuza one, Monster Hunter Wilds is gonna be fucking huge. I hope Judas might come out next year. Maybe not. Borderlands
Mm.
4, Citizen Sleeper 2. That Clear Obscure Expedition 33 game looks awesome. That showed up in the Xbox thingo. Death Stranding 2, Doom, Fable, Earthblade, the game
okay.
from... look, I'm just getting excited, man. There's so many more. Ghost of Yotei,
I'm like scrolling. and I'm
GTA
through
6,
F.
Hollow Knight
I'm already
Silksong
excited.
should come out next year.
Yeah.
Mafia: The Old Country, Marvel 1943, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Mixtape, Pokemon Legends Z to A, Possessors, that's one for me. Replace South of Midnight. Shit, that's where I'm capping out. But
Avowed.
hell,
yeah.
what a year. I said Avowed. Relax.
I wasn't even sure
Say it
if you
again.
mentioned them there, but like Kronos is touted for next year, the new Bloober game, and like that's kind of one that's maybe a bit more left to field
True,
that I
yeah.
have like high hopes for.
I don't think it's next year, is it?
I think it.
I don't know if it was
they have
dated.
talked about it for next year.
No,
It's on the.
I don't think. I think you need to reel it in, Ewan. You
I
ruined
don't know
it.
if I do. It's on the Wikipedia page I'm looking at
To
right
add
now.
to that,
No,
I think,
yeah.
It does say
like we
2024 on
touched on,
Steam.
right, the Switch 2 will come with its own set of games, Metroid Prime. I think Nintendo's really going to go hard in that first year. I don't think they're going to be resting on anything. I think they're going to have software
New 3D
prepared.
Mario.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, add those to the list.
There will be
and
more
we'll
Sony
have a
first
good
party
go.
than just Ghost of Yotei. Like, you might get Cory Barlog's new game. Oh, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be through the roof, Ewan. It's gonna
I
be
think
through the
even in
roof.
terms of
It is.
announcements as well, like I'm assuming next year we hear about Insomniac's next game, maybe Naughty Dog's as well. Like I don't know, there's just a few things
I
that
can feel myself changing already.
get me giddy about next year. Not expecting them to come out, but even just like getting a clearer picture as to like what their next games
And then all the
are
inevitable,
what the-
tremendous indies that we're gonna get. It's just gonna be, it's gonna be a great time.
Devolver, what
Towerborn.
are they doing?
Devolver, what? Yeah, Skate Story, shit. Like among other things, they've got other games, I'm sure. But Skate Story,
Witchfire.
Witchfire,
Yeah.
isn't that out?
I love how
Yeah,
everyone's
Witchfire's
so
out, isn't it?
quiet. Oh, I don't know. It's on this list. Witchfire.
I think
Oh,
it's
full release of an
Oh,
early access.
I'll say it's
game.
in early
There we go.
access.
Oh yeah,
We might get a full
Resident
release of No
Evil,
Rest for the
James.
Wicked next year.
Nah, I don't think Resident Evil will be out next year. I think we'll see it next year, but I think they'll want Monster Hunter to breathe a bit, which is like
Keen for
annoying.
that.
But I'll just have to. I'll accept it.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. 2025 set to be a banger.
Adventure Calls. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle releases on December 9th on Xbox Series X and S, Game Pass, and PC. Pre-order Indiana Jones and the Great Circle now. Rated M for mature themes and action violence.
This year, though, is the 30th anniversary of PlayStation, and as of recording, it is officially the 30th anniversary today. So we've got a little kind of special topic for us all before we close out today, and just like reflecting on our storied legacy, our history with PlayStation. Shannon, I want to start with you as I think probably the biggest PlayStation fan here, maybe
In
just
the world.
myself giving you a run for the money.
In Australia, I reckon.
What was your first PlayStation? Which one did you reckon you spent the most time with? Let's start with those two questions.
My first PlayStation was the PS1. It was my first like console that I had to myself. I've got two older brothers,
Right.
and like we were always a gaming family. But like that was the first one I had in my bedroom. It's like my home console, with Xbox and Nintendo, so it wasn't PlayStation exclusive. But like that, was my childhood. I think I mentioned in the PS5 Pro article that I wrote recently that like the 64 and other consoles had always been like the family coming around in holidays, where this felt like sort of my console for playing Ape Escape and Bugs Bunny, Lost in Time, and other Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, like all of those sort of single player platforming games that you didn't necessarily play with others. And that kind of kicked off my love for gaming in a different way. Like it was always social before that, but I guess this was the start of my own journey with video games.
Going solo.
And it's
You
gone
just
in
remind
and
me, I
out since
played
then,
like
but
Disney games on the PS1. The PS1 was also my
Hercules.
first, but I was playing like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro predominantly on it then, and 40 Winks, which you might remember me banging on a bunch of at one time. But it wasn't mine. That wasn't my first console. Like, nor was the PS2. My mum was a gamer. They were predominantly hers. Aaron and my brother would get the more kind of kid-friendly games. So we're denied Tomb Raider, that kind of thing. But played a heap on the PS2. That's kind of when I think it really became, okay, I'm all about gaming. And then I think I eventually got a PS3 of my own. Maybe not the first PS3 we got, but I kind of like started earning my own money at that point and could eventually get a console of my own, which is when the Call of Duty obsession really kicked into full gear. What about yourself, bro? Do you got fond memories with PlayStation?
Yeah, I've got a couple of like core memories as far as PlayStation goes. Like, I'll never forget like the Christmas morning, probably 2002, 3 maybe, that I got my PS2. Mum got it for me. I thought I was going to get it, and then the last present I opened, it was like shaped like the PS2 box, and it wound up being like a suitcase. And I was like, I melted because I thought I'd just got luggage for Christmas, and I was like, oh, I want a PS2. And then I opened it, and of course the PS2 was in there. Well played, Mum. And then yeah, she didn't get me a memory card, so I played like the first level of Tony Hawk's 3 like 100 times, just over and over and over again. And then yeah, the first console I played, I bought myself, was the PS3. Which I did when I moved back to Lakes Entrance, like maybe
For 1,000.
no. So it was like the skinny model.
Slim.
I bought that probably like 2000, I don't know, 11, 12 or something like that when I moved back to Lakes. And I didn't have a job. I didn't get a job for a while, so I bought all 3 Uncharted games and played them back to back to back. And yeah, that was a wild time. So yeah, I've got some
Unemployed.
Yeah, fun employed. That's it. I've got some good memories of PlayStation.
I remember I used to get games from like PlayAsia or something because it was so much cheaper to get them from overseas at that time. And I remember Uncharted and Assassin's Creed arriving on the same day. I think, yeah, one of those. I think they came out very similar, and that felt like, I guess, the next generation of games in terms of like what we know it as now. So that was a cool moment as well.
You've just unlocked a core memory for me as well, which was playing on my PS3, having kind of lag issues playing Call of Duty, and I fashioned antennas out of tin foil and old toilet paper rolls to go on top of my Wi-Fi router to like try and stretch, like focus the Wi-Fi signal better to my PS3 on the opposite side of the house. And worked a treat, might I say.
I'm sure that's a coincidence.
I think I sent Shannon a guide recently. I wrote like a guide about how I made these.
Technologic.
Yeah, and like this whole tech blog that I used to write.
We should republish that.
I also did stretch like a 50-meter long Ethernet cable, like from one corner of the house to the next when we were in a rental for a period of time too. And I like blue tacked it like around all the door frames and around skirting boards for the entire like length of the house. I don't know how my parents put up with me. That's I owe them for that.
Well, they had to.
What about yourself, James? Have you got some fond PlayStation memories?
Not like I bought what like I've had every PlayStation.
You're predominantly an Xbox gamer though, right?
No, I mean from
He's
360
a gamer
onwards.
of the world.
Okay.
Resident Evil. Surely there's a few.
I just play games.
He's well travelled. He's a gamer.
Yeah, no,
Trademark.
I had a PS1. I think we got a PS1. This is a very Australian thing, but if anyone remembers, like Bali games, like everybody
I'm
bought.
pretty sure like ours is off the
PS1s.
back of a truck as well.
Yeah.
At the Caribbean Gardens.
And you could,
You'd go to the guy and he's like, "Oh, you want some games? Like, here's a whole binder."
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I think we did that because times were tough. I don't know. I don't remember what happened. I just had a PlayStation one day. So there we go. I had a PS2 for Metal Gear. Like I remember I had to have that because there was just no other option for me. Like I had to play it before I read about it on forums or at the schoolyard. My PS3 was the first one I bought myself. I imported it from PlayAsia.
Oh.
Cost me, I think, $1,200.
Was that to get it before it released here?
Yeah.
For that
I was, like,
resistance, hey?
Yeah, and I bought it with fucking Genji and Resistance, and yeah, I remember thinking, I think that's the first, like, time I've had...
Hardcore.
buyer's remorse because I was so young and that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but because then I didn't really use it that much. Like I played those 2 games and that was it. Because I think was there like years between the 360 and the PS3? Like I feel like there was a gap.
Yeah,
Right.
I
I'm
think
not
the
re-
PS3 was like a year after the 360 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With the
it was-
inflation,
it was
that's
a,
like
there was a weird
$25,000.
Yeah. 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 And I was like, what? I don't know how old I was, but I was young-ish. So I was like working a shitty casual job at like Blockbuster and McDonald's.
Like you might have been what?
Like,
You're the same age as me almost. So you might have been like 18, 17, 18?
yeah, I think I was 16, 17, probably.
I think I
I was
trolled
focused-
Gumtree or wouldn't have been Marketplace, would have been Gumtree, and like picked one up for like $700 or something and was stoked.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, like really dumb of me in retrospect. Because then I couldn't even create a PlayStation account or something because there was no Australia. Like my main PlayStation account for so long was a Hong Kong one because it was an Asian PlayStation. So and then yeah, I had to eventually make the switch for PS4. But yeah, I like some of my favorite games. Obviously, some of my biggest loves in games started on PlayStation. Obviously, Resident Evil 3 was my first one, and then I went back and played them all on Siphon Filter, Medieval. Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, all good games. Started on
Silent
PlayStation.
Hill.
So
Nice.
yeah, Silent Hill. Silent Hill was late for me. I started that on PS2, but yeah.
Talking
times.
about the history of PlayStation, it was announced this week that PlayStation legend Shuhei Yoshida is also leaving the company in January after 31 years of the company. If you're unfamiliar with Yoshida, he's been at PlayStation basically since they began 31 years ago, overseeing the creation of many of their most iconic franchises, stuff like Crash, Spyro, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, God of War, Ape Escape, Parappa the Rapper, and many, many more titles. And more recently, he's been kind of helming up their indie kind of partnership program, I believe, as well. So that's like a big area of like investment for him too. But Shannon, I wanted to ask you, like, what was your reaction to this news? Are you sad to see him go? And what do you think his legacy is going to be at the company?
Yeah, it's a hard one because I feel like ever since he was kind of pushed out of that like head of Worldwide Studios role or whatever he was in for the longest time, like he has kind of just been, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, I don't know the inner workings of what he does every day in PlayStation, but he's been more of like a brand ambassador and sort of a beloved PlayStation icon more than someone who like is at the top of all those franchises like we just spoke about. So yeah, I don't know. I was a little bit. I mean, it's hard to know. Me putting my like businessy hat on it was hard to know whether he was choosing to leave or whether his position was no longer there. So like without that context, it's kind of hard to comment on. But from what he said, he still seems really passionate about the industry, and obviously he loves indies, and he's always had a brain for like those weird and kooky games for the most part that Sony used to be known for with Studio Japan. So like I would have liked to have thought that within PlayStation he could still be valuable doing that kind of thing, but he clearly wasn't being used in that way. So sad because I feel like when Nintendo lost like Reggie and other people moved on from Nintendo, like we don't really have many of those notable figures in gaming, and I feel like he is one of those for PlayStation when there really aren't there anymore. So yeah, obviously a huge legacy, and yeah, seems like a great
I think
guy
he was
by all
like
accounts.
clearly someone that was like very passionate about what he does. Never really felt like a suit up on stage presenting things, which you can't say about everyone at PlayStation. I think he really kind of had like kind of as much of a passion for the kind of artistic side of game development and not just the business side. And I think he balanced that kind of reasonably well too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sad to see him go, but pleased that he's not retiring, although he deserves to if he wanted to. But he wants to kind of stay in the industry. It wouldn't surprise me if he kind of does like a consulting sort of thing now and like works with, up and coming studios, indies to kind of like help them refine pitches, that kind of thing. I can see him filling up his time plenty, doing that sort of work. So yeah, hopefully his impact continues to be felt in that regard.
He should just dedicate his time to making a new Ape Escape and making that happen. That would be the best use of his time.
Kickstarter incoming.
Exactly.
It would be great if you just worked with third-party developers to like find the right place, like work with some of those dormant IPs. I think, there's a bunch of A bunch of publishers that could benefit from someone doing that sort of role, I reckon. Sticking with PlayStation a moment longer for the rapid fire question today. An update dropped in the last day or two allowing you to change the theme of your PlayStation 5 to that commemorating their past consoles, changing the startup screen, UI sound effects and all. I went and jumped in and changed mine to the PS3 today just because I kind of loved the way that they've done that, and it was also probably the console I spent the most time with, so it feels quite nostalgic in that regard. But I'm curious from the three of you, which are you kind of setting, which theme are you picking, if any?
I haven't seen them yet to know whether... Are they just one for one, what they were?
No, they've kind of like
Inspired.
been integrated
Yeah, okay.
into the PS5 system somewhat.
I always thought like the style and the startup of the PS2 went really hard, so I think I'll probably go that one.
Nice. Shannon?
I agree. PS3 feels like it's nostalgic, and I think the XMB was like one of the best UIs in PlayStation history and just any console. So yeah, I feel like PS1 and PS2 are iconic, but I feel like PS3 is like that sweet spot of like you don't see it every day in this type of like anniversary event, but it's still nostalgic and cool.
I love that like E-chord kind of tune up as well of the
Yeah.
PS3. That's great. James, what are you picking?
Just anything besides the 3 at this stage. Probably the 2.
Bad memories from that $1,200 purchase.
Yeah, it's the buyer's remorse kicking in.
Fucking, yeah. Haze.
Now it's time for What the Wiki, the Press Up podcast game show where the previous week's winner reads part of a Wikipedia page for an unknown game, and we, the contestants, must guess the game. A point is awarded for each correct guess, with the round concluding after one person bags themselves 2 points. As last week's winner, James is in the hosting chair today. He's comfortably in first place on 41 points. I'm in second on 36, Shannon in third on 31, Brody in fourth on 25, and Harry bringing up the rear on 5 points. But yeah,
Double
James.
points. Double points.
We haven't
yeah, let's go.
changed up any rules yet.
As long
go.
as James is happy to, it's his call.
There was a
actually.
comment on Spotify, right, saying don't change up the rules.
That was James. James
There
put that on
was.
there.
That wasn't me. We could do double points if you want. I don't care.
Ooh.
I feel like you're not going to get any, so...
I'm not going to say
Yeah,
no.
well,
Like, if you're saying double
Shannon
points, let's do it.
complained today that I picked the same games the same way. So if anyone struggles, thanks Shannon.
Oh,
All
dear.
right.
round.
Oh, God.
One of them is an
Evil.
interesting coincidence though,
Oh.
and that will make sense after it gets revealed. But let's
Okay.
move on. Okay. As with the original game, this game bears strong similarity to that of Capcom's Onimusha series. The player controls 4 characters, a samurai and the protagonist of the previous game, a giant club-wielding monk, a female priestess, and a spear-wielding warrior who bears a striking resemblance to someone. It's not relevant. Unlike the previous game, all characters have access to a real-time weapon change feature that lets them switch between their weapons quickly without interrupting the flow of combat. The game was one of the first games for the console that utilized the built-in hard drive. No? Nothing?
Nothing.
I can't even work out what the fucking console is.
The game takes place 3 years after the end of Dawn of the Samurai. The Haishi clan, defeated at the end of the previous game, has returned, its military strength bolstered by the use of unholy magic. Like the previous game, this game is loosely based on a piece of classic work. There's not much on the Wikipedia page. The game is an action-adventure game developed by Game Republic and published by Sony for the PlayStation 3. It is a sequel to another
Brody.
game and the first game to be released under Japan Studio. Yes, bro.
Is it Genji?
Is everyone happy with that?
No.
I don't know. You mentioned it before. I didn't know it had a bigger title.
Ewan, is it Genji 2?
No.
Damn it. You mentioned
I'm going to
sequel.
probably give it... I think we should give it to Brody.
Okay. What is
Shannon
the
doesn't
game?
have it, and he's the
I got
PlayStation
nothing.
one. So...
I'm
Brody?
just so confused.
What was the game?
Genji, Days of the Blade.
Days of the Blade.
I
Okay.
don't think any of us would have got that, to be honest.
Don't know it.
Never.
It's a
I only
null
know it
round.
because James said
Null.
it 5 minutes ago.
Null round.
Yeah. Yeah, well. Okay, this game is a platform game where
points for
players
Brody.
play as 2 different characters. As the 2 are about to go to bed, their mother tells a story about something. gonna skip
Ewan.
ahead. Yes, Ewan.
I was only half paying attention. They're not going to lie. But is it 40 Winks?
It is 40 Winks. Congratulations, Ewan.
Yes.
So that was my coincidence
That
game.
was, yeah.
Just so everyone knows.
It's like random.
Oh, I assumed Genji was the coincidence.
Yeah, I thought
it
that
was-
too.
When he mentioned 40 Winks, my eyes widened like a little bit. I was like, fuck. Not that I'm trying to like.
I don't
engineer
think.
this for
Does
anybody
anyone
to
think
win.
about 40 Winks the game anymore?
I still don't know what
I'd
it
say
is. I've
you
heard
and
about
I.
it twice.
You play as like two kids, and they've got like little candles, like Wee Willie.
Yeah.
What's his name? Wee Willie not Wonka. You know what I'm
Rough
talking
and
about?
Tumble, I think they're called. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
Anyway, it's like a shit Mario ripoff for people who didn't have Nintendo.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, but it was
Cool.
good. I loved
Okay.
it.
lovely. I'll look into it.
Well, I hope you do. Okay.
I'm going to.
I'm really glad. The game is the the player takes control of an amnesiac protagonist struggling desperately against overwhelming odds to stay alive and uncover their identity. The game is a combination of first-person shooter and arcade-style light gun shooters.
Brody.
The player views the environment from the perspective of the character and moves
Brody?
the character through the environment.
Brody bust in.
Is it?
Oh, sorry.
Can I go?
Yeah, go.
First-person shooter. No, sorry. I confused myself. I'll opt out.
Do you want to say it so we can laugh at you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
Shannon.
said just borrowed from first person shooter.
House of
Oh.
the Dead.
No, Shannon.
You
sorry.
did say it was a first-person shooter, didn't you?
I said it is a combination of first-person shooter and arcade-style light gun shooters. So yes,
Okay.
I think I know what it is, but I don't know the name.
the player views the environment from the perspective of the character and moves the character through the environment. At the same time, if the player wishes to attack, they press a button which allows them to control a crosshair on the screen. The crosshair can be moved to any location. The game borrows enemies from another game in the series.
Shannon.
And
I don't know the name of the game, but apparently that's all right. I don't know.
I'm gonna
I'll go
like,
next. I'll
this
queue
is-
up.
Is it?
You, nah,
Is it Dead Space something?
it's not, babe.
There was a Dead Space light. Am I making that up?
There was.
Did
I wasn't denying that. Yeah, Dead Space
No,
Extraction.
but
Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
It wasn't totally insane, is what he's saying.
No.
No, I just.
Brody.
The player's arsenal consists.
Oh, sorry.
Brody.
No, go.
Oh my god, Brody. Go.
I think there's
like
lag.
this
I think
one.
there's lag.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh.
I'm going to say, I don't know if this is a light gun game. I don't know enough about the series. Resident Evil. Code Veronica.
No.
Okay. Okay. Is that a light gun game?
Oh. Shannon.
The player's ass. The player's ass. Yep. Sure.
Resident Evil 4.
No.
The VR.
The player's.
Oh my god.
Wii edition. Resident Evil 4
No.
Wii.
No.
Oh.
No. Oh.
No.
The player's arsenal consists almost entirely of pistols, such as the Glock and whatever. As the protagonist progresses through the game, the player receives larger weapons to aid in defending against even more dangerous opposition.
Ewan.
Yes, you.
Is this Zombie U? What's it
No.
called? Is there an arcade
No.
version of it?
Great game.
The game started its own spin-off series, which was followed by 3 sequels, which were released for the PS2 and also utilized the G-Con peripheral. The first one was released for PlayStation 2 in 2002, but was not released in America due to concerns surrounding the use of the peripheral. A spin-off of that spin-off was also released in 2002 called Dino Stalker, and a 4th game, Dead Aim, was released in 2003. The game is a light gun shooter developed by Tosei and published by Capcom. It was released on the PlayStation. Yes.
Is this Dino Crisis?
No.
Brody?
Yes,
Is
Brody.
it Dino Crisis 3?
No.
Okay.
The
Does
game
it
is
fucking
a
have
spin-off.
dinosaurs in it at all?
Is it Death Grounds?
No. It is a spin-off of the Resident Evil video game series, and the first first-person perspective Resident Evil game, predating Resident Evil 7 by 17 years. As the first release in the series, the game was a major difference from the original Resident Evil games, substituting third-person perspective for a first-person view. The Japanese and European versions of the game were compatible with the GunCon/G-Con 45.
I truly don't
making it
know
one of the first.
Yeah, I don't know.
what the spin-off for Resident Evil would be called. It's got me fucking rattled.
What do we do?
Biohazard.
That's the
Resident
Japanese
Evil
beginning
guns
of the-
blazing.
But one of
Is
those.
it-
No.
Is it Wesker?
Blazing?
Wesker.
Is it Wesker? That's a character. That's not a game. No, there's no Wesker in it.
Is this a pop? Was it popular?
Oh God, no. Probably not.
Okay,
I'm
Wait
still
a
getting
minute.
over the fact that they didn't let the fake gun into the US, but they're totally cool with just selling real ones at Walmart.
Yeah. Literally. Just listen carefully because this will make it obvious. Okay.
Okay,
It's going
alright.
to be a race. Okay. The game was followed by a sequel, Resident Evil Survivor 2.
Brody,
Ewan.
Brody.
is it Resident Evil Survivor?
It is.
That felt wrong.
Yeah. Well.
Both
you
of
know.
them for yours, dude.
Settle down.
Wow.
It was given by the adjudicator, you bitch.
Yeah. Well.
That's right, I'm
That
picking
round
it up.
felt
on
difficult,
yourself.
but no doubt people out there were just like...
I'm picking
listening to that
obscure
going,
games
"I know
next
what
week
this
now."
game
Still
is."
never heard of it.
I wouldn't have picked obscure games if somebody didn't complain. So.
Who complained? Which one of you complained?
Shannon, allegedly.
Oh, Shannon, shut your mouth.
And yet we still got
honestly.
a Resident Evil game.
Well, you know. Should we
Never
move
heard
on?
of this game in my life.
we should
Neither.
move on. It's so hot in
Brody's
this room.
won,
I'm so
so,
red in the face. I'm sweating.
So
Let's
did
bring
I
an
get
end.
4 points for that?
You did, yeah. You're
Sure.
on 29 points now,
Absolutely.
Brody.
Wow, I'm coming.
You're actually within 2 points of Shannon now. So big.
They were like
Big
hard
movement.
games, so I think
It's
that's
not a
fair.
feat.
We won't do double points next week though, because Jamsy could just take off to the moon.
At the
I get half
discretion of the
points.
host. Maybe what we should do is like, if you get it in the first paragraph, you get extra points. Second paragraph,
Oh,
less
nah,
points.
that's
That's gonna be. Do you want to keep track of that shit?
No, not really. Okay, with that, let's bring
I'm
an end to
happy
what
to
was
do
this
that,
week's episode of the
otherwise.
Press Start podcast. Subscribe to us on Listener or the podcast service of your choice. Follow us at press.au and visit the site at pressstart.com.au. We've been joined today by Shannon.
Yeah, you can follow me at Shannon Grixty.
Also joining us today was James.
Yeah, you can find me on X or Twitter at Jams.
And taking home the points in this double XP episode, it was Brody.
4 out of 10 from Game Informer for Resident Evil Survivor. Just FYI, it's a great one. It's
a good time.
You can follow me on most things at Brody_DG.
And I've been your host, Ewan Roxburgh. You can follow me on socials at Ewan_Roxburgh. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, happy gaming.
Bye.
Bye.
Adventure Calls! Indiana Jones and the Great Circle releases on December 9th on Xbox Series X and S, Game Pass, and PC. Pre-order Indiana Jones and the Great Circle now. Rated M for mature themes and action violence.